Dracula Untold.
Retold. Not told very well. And actually, I'm a little bit disappointed. Not in the way you would think. I was disappointed in this movie because it's not as gloriously horrible as I wanted it to be. I wanted this to be like a complete bloodbath.
We both kind of did.
Well, well, not in the same way I wanted it. I wanted it because I wanted to see your reaction to the bloodbath. Because if you guys haven't figured it out by now, right here, this man may be the biggest vampire lore freak I've ever met.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know people, but that this guy's ever met. Yeah.
Yeah, at least as I've ever met. And I just wanted to see him react to a movie whose entire premise is, you don't know the true story of Dracula. Oh, enlighten us.
Yeah.
So...
yeah, they got it wrong.
Well, they
could have done worse.
And that's the... Actually, you know what? That's the worst thing you could say about it. It could have been worse.
But
why wasn't it worse?
I know.
They fucked up in the place where they're not supposed to fuck up by doing something that's not entirely bad. They needed to be catastrophic.
I mean, on one hand, I guess I'm glad I didn't have to watch, one of my favorite genres. My favorite genre be butchered in front of me,
but then you're depriving me of my joy.
But I knew it'd be more to talk about. It would be on some level, I would enjoy it just because it's who we are. And it's the nature of the beast.
I don't know. Like I'm always I'm the kind of person who. I like the things I like, but there's a sick part of me that wants to see the things I like just be lit up like
some men
neon
just want
shit.
to watch the world burn.
That is not entirely untrue. Like, I've been on the record by saying, like, Batman and Robin, is not nearly as bad as everyone makes it out to be. It's actually, it's not a good movie, but it's a movie that is a fun watch. It is, when you realize that it's supposed to be the 60s camp Batman,
Yeah.
And guess what, people? The 60s Batman is not that terrible. It's charming, it's funny, sometimes unintentionally, but it's funny, and I think Batman and Robin captures it. And to date, I don't think there has ever been a Batman movie that looks like a comic book movie more than the Joel Schumacher Batman films.
Yes.
I love his use of color. And warts and all, I can appreciate Batman and Robin. And I wanted to kind of transfer that same kind of appreciation of good, bad films to Dracula Untold, because it was rife. It was rife for all the opportunities for such a film. I mean, like, besides the premise,
The Bat Fist.
besides the premise, like the action scenes in the trailers, they're like, oh my god, that is. On one hand, that is awesome, but on the other hand, that is so.
Jumps off it was the manner in which they executed. I mean, he jumps off the top of the castle, and he turns into bats in the shape of. It was like, oh god, this is gonna be one of those, isn't it? Yeah.
I mean, you're seeing those in the previews, and you're saying, well, one, at least they're trying to be creative. I mean, they could have not done that.
They couldn't do the whole, face made of bats because the Mummy did it, I guess.
If they thought they could get away with it, they would have.
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved to see...
It felt like this was a League of Legends character. That's what it felt like. And he was pressing his, 3 keys because the guy did not have a lot of variety.
No, he really didn't.
It was basically, everything had to do with bats. You could turn into bats. You could control bats. And do special attacks with the bats.
Or you could have, like, super speed and strength.
I don't know. His speed came from bats, though. Like, he couldn't... He didn't have celerity. He couldn't run fast. He had to turn into bats to go fast.
Well, he kind of bamfed.
He kind of bamfed.
He didn't kind of bamfed.
It was kind of like Nightcrawler, except instead of the, black smoke, it was bats. For all intents and purposes.
I mean, if we're going to look at this from a filmmaking perspective, yeah, that is pretty much, cut and paste effects as far as that effect is achieved. But as I was saying with the direction that this movie was taking, the Dracula's powers, especially, it felt like, wow, at least they're being creative. At least they're attempting creativity, at least. I'm not saying that, they're doing something pretty fucking stupid.
You don't even see his wounds get healed very often. Like... The most healing he goes through is when he touches something silver, and his scars get healed, and you don't get to watch them heal, like Wolverine style. They just, one night he wakes up and sees his wife, your scars are gone. Yeah. Nice healings, epic healing there.
Like,
The powers were so cheap in this. Like there was, like let's just start. There was no mind control. There was no wolf form. There was no communicating with animals or controlling animals other than doing special attacks with bats. There was no war form like like in the classic Bram Stoker's Dracula of Gary Oldman, where he turns into a big ass bat beast of a man.
And when we were first introduced to Dracula's castle, I was saddened to see that he does not have an upside down version of his castle that you can only I'm gonna out you. Like, up until recently, he has never even played through, let alone me played through for him, Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
This is honestly it's how everything goes these days.
And
I never played Castlevania.
Yeah, it's big vampire fan. Never played a Castlevania.
I've played most everything but that.
And I'll be the first one to tell you that there's very few Castlevania games that you need to play as a vampire fan. Symphony of the Night is one of them. Castlevania 4, Castlevania 1 and 3.
Okay.
Fuck Castlevania 2.
Yeah.
But again, as I was trying to say, like I went into this movie hoping against hope that they were going to do something even more gloriously stupid than the Bat Fist, but they didn't.
Yeah.
But they didn't, and I was left disappointed. You know what it was? It was the fact that they didn't have to do the things they did that set a precedent that they could not deliver.
Yeah.
They used their creative orgasm for those two scenes, and that was it.
No mist form, no invisibility, no flying, other than bat form. But
no mind control.
Yeah, I mentioned that one.
Oh, no animal mind control or
domination. I think I mentioned no mind control, no mind powers. Maybe I missed it. I don't know, but yeah, there's no domination. There's no disguise. There's no disguising, taking on different images or anything like that.
And I think he even sees his own reflection in one point.
In the trailer, they sell that he's able to disappear, because there's they show him walking amongst mortal men, and then I'm not a ghost, and then it shows him disappear, kind of like someone walks in front of him. I don't know. He does the Batman thing.
It could just be that like in the short interim where he was blocked out of view, he quickly is just like.
Yeah, but he doesn't even do it. So.
No, it's.
They were missing all the classics. They just stuck with bats, hardcore bats, and not even that creatively. He doesn't even turn into a big bat.
He's just a bunch of bats.
He just turns into a bunch of bats for everything he does, and eventually he figures out that he can control bats without becoming bats.
And that's
why I say it's League of Legends. It's like a very... Hell, he had less powers than he would have if he was a League of Legends character. 3 buttons, and he didn't even have that many powers.
No.
And I am not counting undead attributes like healing or being able to resist damage. Fuck that shit. There was no visual stuff other than bats, and that was upsetting. We'll get to the possibilities later, but we'll start from the ground up.
I still want to continue on going into the movie. Is that was strike one.
Yeah.
Strike two was the fact that I was expecting this to be hammy. I was expecting every actor to really throw everything into their role, because it's that kind of story. It's gothic and melodramatic. Oddly enough, everything is almost underplayed.
Yes, the whole thing is underplayed. It is
as far as acting and directorial involvement.
Well, even the writing is underplayed. They didn't have any teeth on them when they made this.
Maybe not.
It was.
I mean, it was toothless in the way that it's.
They got they took parts of the story and nerfed it down to a point where it wouldn't make a lot of where it wouldn't have a lot of drive.
I mean, as far as the writing is concerned, it's toothless in that it's trying to turn Vlad Dracula or Vlad Tepes. I don't think they ever called him Vlad Tepes in this movie, so it's Vlad Dracula, I think. And they're trying to turn him into the hero, just a tarnished hero by the end, a hero that's fallen from grace, instead of just being somebody who's prideful. Or
They even tried to start it off with him being the Impaler, and they just try to kind of justify it. Oh, they throw out the whole, you stake one village, you don't have to stake all the other 9 villages or whatever.
It's like sometimes the world needs a monster.
Sometimes the world needs a monster. They start you off from the beginning with that exact line. It's just really they took some parts of the actual the actual history and the written novel and everything else that people have written about him, and they just dampened it,
trying to turn it's very, very obvious that this movie is straining against its PG-13 shackles. This movie is screaming out to be bloodier and sexier. And,
it's like, I want to give examples, but we need to do it in
linear form. And then, but finally, lastly, the strike three, and that's when I knew that this movie was a bust in terms of how I could derive enjoyment out of it, was the fact that when all is said and done, it's just a pointless movie.
Yeah, my initial reaction, I was less than halfway into it. I realized this movie is just
like cash grab doesn't seem the right
word. Unnecessary.
It feels unnecessary. That's the right word for it. It just feels unnecessary. I mean, calling it a cash grab would infer that somebody really thought this would make money. I think that what they did this is out of a sense of, what's the word I'm looking, like a sense of
obligation.
Yeah, that's a sense
of what the whole thing felt like.
It just feels like, well, they're trying to revive.
Marks it on the calendar. We got the wave of reboots is coming for the classic Hollywood monsters. Dracula has always been the biggest one, so I guess we got to do Dracula.
Does anyone have a good idea for a story? Well, when has that stopped anyone from ever making a movie? So, put it out in October. It's Halloween season. Fuck it. I mean, like, at least with a cash grab, there has to be, like, some sense of, like, yeah, this is going to make us money. There's at least a little bit of passion. Greed is at least a recognizable human emotion, but this is like a assembly form kind of movie.
Yeah, it was completely just generic.
I mean, yeah, it
was like a guy heard about vampires and knew what anybody else knew about them and said, let's go with that. And that's what we'll do. It's not that difficult. It's gonna be
like anyone can make a movie.
Anybody can, yeah.
And the only one who seems to give a crap throughout this movie are two people: Charles Dance.
Yeah.
But that's because he's a professional, and it's his job to care.
Yes.
And the digital effects artist. I think they really cared.
They cared. It is what they didn't have a lot to work with,
but they cared. They did some pretty stupid things, but they cared. Because they honestly believed in that stupid idea with the bats. But they cared.
Actually, I have to say, I think this is actually the first time that there's been a movie made about Dracula being a vampire in the 1400s. Because there's another movie, I believe it was called The Dark Prince, and I don't know if it ever actually made it to theater, but it was basically about the actual Vlad Tepes. Dracula, whatever. There's a lot of ways of saying it, but it was about Vlad Tepes, Dracula, and his, as much as we know about the actual events, and at the end of the film they leave the implication that he may become a vampire, because his cask was his coffin was raided, or he walked out of his coffin, and there was only animal bones left.
Okay.
That's the actual what we have.
So, but instead of it being like a high fantasy historical movie, it's treated somewhat as like a mystery. It sounds like.
Yeah, this was more like this is what we, as much as we know, happened for the Dark Prince. And he could have been a vampire, could have not been a vampire, but they have a little like alternate ending thing where he is a vampire. But that was cute and all. But this one is the first time I'm pretty sure they ever tried to make a movie where he was a vampire during his time.
Not like in the 19th century.
Not in the 19th century, but in the 1400s. This is they show the beginning at the beginning of Bram Stoker's Dracula by Francis Ford Copperfield. This guy
stole that one from me.
Yes, I did. Francis Ford Copperfield.
Now you can't stop saying it, can you?
It just really rolls off the tongue.
Francis Ford Copperfield.
The guy makes great wine.
No, he doesn't actually. But all right, if you ever go to the wine country, if you ever vacation,
I don't know if I've ever actually had his wine.
If you go to the wine country, don't go to the Coppola winery. You fucking tourist! Don't go to the fucking Coppola winery.
A better filmmaker than we'll give a.
Like,
but yeah, it starts off in the beginning of that film doing what this film did, and it does a better job than this entire movie in its like whole 10 to 15 minutes that it has that it has a prelude into the movie. Gary Oldman's performance alone just destroys anything else that's ever been done in vampire genre. You just cannot compare to the titanic lengths that Gary Oldman took it.
Willem Dafoe in Shadow of a Vampire.
Yes, he comes the closest, and arguably you could even say he did better. But for me, it really comes to personal preference or opinion. For me, Gary Oldman's performance as a vampire will always be the best.
Well, that's because you're in love with the aristocratic vampire.
Remember, he also sold the old monster.
Yeah,
Gary Oldman went from being the more Nosferatu style kind of monster. Forget the hair, that was ridiculous. But
oh yeah,
minus the hair, that was amazing. That wasn't his fault. I'm sure he didn't say, "I want that thing on my head." It must have been heavy, but. He took it from there to the aristocratic gentleman and vampire mystery. It was amazing, and his acting chops. It was just it was fantastic.
Oh yeah, it's Gary Oldman.
Given the soundtrack was amazing for that movie.
It's like when he heard that Keanu Reeves was going to be his co-star in that movie. He just said to Francis Ford Coppola, "You challenged me.
Yeah,
I accept."
He acted enough to make up for Keanu Reeves. That's hard to do.
I just wish he could bring a little bit of that magic to RoboCop. Oof.
There was not much you can do in that situation. But
he's only human.
The end of Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman is just it's like my favorite ending of all time of any movie. I love that. It was cinematically, it was beautiful. It was absolutely beautiful.
We've well established your love of vampires.
Yes.
So I think we need to explain to the viewer how...
This did not do that.
Not only did not do that, but it was actually how pointless and really brief it was.
It was a short movie.
Yeah, it felt short, too.
They got to the part in the trailer where he goes up the mountain and becomes Dracula, the son of the devil, or as he calls himself.
I think even before the 30-minute mark. He's Dracula before the 30 minutes.
They go right into him. Credit to Charles Dance. We didn't even know it was him until halfway through the movie. Did you?
I had an inkling that was Charles Dance because his eyes and his this face, the upper part of his face is very distinctive.
I didn't even notice till halfway through the movie or near the end.
Well, he was shot in shadow, so it was sometimes hard to do.
As soon as he peeks out the cave, it's like what the
Tywin Lannister? What are you doing here?
Yes,
that was my one. But this is, I think, the first movie I've seen all year where I'm thinking this needs to be longer. This movie could have been 15 minutes longer.
Nah. I think it would have just been more drab scenes with his wife, talking about how he's doing this for them and how he doesn't want to be a cool vampire with powers. He just wants to help his country.
On one hand, that's probably what the movie would have done with the extra time it was given. But on the other hand, I feel like this movie needs some more breathing room. Everything happens just like bam, 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 bam.
What I would have changed to go ahead.
It just feels like it wants itself to get over with. And considering how good it is, that's not exactly a bad thing. But you're burying the lead quite a bit by just. It's like you know what, we don't want to be here any more than you guys do. Let's just get this shit over with. Which comes back to our point about it being. A completely pointless movie.
What I would have changed is I see the direction they were going. This was another CG extravaganza, to be expected.
But to be fair, as far as CG goes, this was not bad. This was not bad CG.
Yeah. It wasn't phenomenal, but it wasn't bad. I mean, it wasn't a movie that was like acclaimed for its CG or any shit like that.
Like they
had good enough CG, and I think that they should have just gone ahead and gone with the theme, and they should have given him a lot more powers. I think that the way this movie could have been made more fun to watch, more cool, would have been to just give it teeth, give him all the powers, have it be a complete showcasing of Dracula's powers. Just have him do everything, and just it could be the most awesome shit. Give him the war form, have him turn into a giant ass Balrog Batman thing. Not that Batman, but a bat beast. Well, and have him just knock people like Sauron, with a single blow.
When you really break the story down to brass tacks, you realize that this is basically every superhero origin story just put to a villain.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the major failing of this movie's story is concerned, because it's so dedicated to painting this Dracula to be a hero, including this whole really tired out spiel about how he's doing everything he's doing for the sake of his people and his family. And you're realizing, well, he's doing some terrible things, but there's supposed to be this disconnect between his intentions and his actions, and his past actions. And we'll get into his past actions in a bit, because that too was forced. But you never feel once that he is conflicted in that regard. It's always just been like a series of circumstances as far as him being morally compromised.
I felt like this should have been more like a Hercules-style Dracula movie.
Like
The Rock. Like The Rock Hercules style. In fact, you know what? They should have cast someone like The Rock for this role.
Dwayne Johnson.
Fuck yes.
If they
this would have been so much better if they cast Dwayne Johnson as Dracula.
For being like completely tepid and boring to completely ridiculous, I guess if we're going to ride this pendulum, I want it to be over here rather than over here.
Yeah, it held back. That's why I say you need to get some teeth on it and just do something ridiculous.
Yeah, and the story starts off almost immediately off the bat when it's revealed that Vlad Dracula was sent off to the Turks to be a child soldier for them, and that's where he earned his reputation as Vlad the Impaler, because he was such a good soldier, and he would, pike soldiers. And right then and there, you're thinking, well, okay, so when the Turks arrive to demand Dracula's son, and he refuses and starts this whole quest of being Dracula, there's just this huge disconnect, like this immense gap between so Dracula's not a bad guy, yet he's doing bad, terrible things, and yet he's truly repentant about slaughtering thousands of innocents. And even the movie kind of brings it up, but as soon as he brings it up, it just kind of brushes it back underneath the carpet. What with Charles Dance, when he's confronting Charles Dance, he's never named. I like to think he's Kane.
He likes to go with Kane. That's a good one. So that's right out of the White Wolf. I don't know. If I had to choose, I like Jesus. I like Jesus.
Just so you can say that Charles Dance played Jesus and a vampire in the
same film. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I would love that too.
Honestly, they could go with, some called me Cain, some called me Christ, some called me Noah.
Some called me Maurice.
Some called me Maurice because I speak to the puppets of love. I wrote that song.
Yeah, I gave it to Steve Miller. He would have been nothing without me.
Yes.
Ain't you, Stevie boy? But, he brings it up in, his confrontation with Charles Dance.
Oh, God.
And
oh, God.
He's like, how many have you killed? How many innocents have you killed? And it's like, don't lie to me, I'll know. And he said, thousands. And what did you feel as you piked them? Fear? Anger? Pride? I felt nothing! And that's worse than the crime itself. Well, obviously you felt something because you feel guilt over feeling nothing. That's not feeling nothing.
Yes.
I don't know how many negative tenses I just used in that sentence, but how
about some training montage between the two?
Yeah,
while we're at it.
It just feels like it feels like
you know,
like cute.
Don't lose your head.
Actually, that would be great if they did go into a Rocky training montage, right as he becomes a vampire.
It's a kind of magic.
Oh, the stupid. There's two big, dumb, stupid decisions in this movie, and truth be known, the movie could have been better, or at least a better watch, if they did more decisions like this. Was the fact that the first big dumb decision was that apparently Dracula is only Dracula for 3 days, unless he gives in to the temptation of drinking blood.
Yes. Thanks for getting to that. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's
funny.
Yeah, it's like, have you ever heard about that one? You could take takesy backsies on being a vampire?
You know, if you drink... God, I'm a nerd. If you drink blood from a vampire, you're not a vampire. You're just a ghoul. And that's what Dracula was in this movie. He was a ghoul. Now, once he starts drinking someone else's blood, he's just a ghoul who started drinking someone else's blood. You have to drain your own blood first and then ingest the blood of a vampire. Now, Now you may say, it's a fictional character! Who cares? They can do whatever they want. Well, this is based on a lot of lore. Based on a lot of fiction. And, just doing it this way and just... Sticking with many of the other... tropes or whatever you want to call it, sticking with all that stuff and then deciding to change one thing here or there without putting emphasis on why, and just having it be that way is, I don't know, it seems lazy, or...
It just feels like it's adding this plot element of a ticking clock that I feel did not need to be there.
Yeah.
It's... Like, the writers was struggling with, well, we need him to be Dracula, but we can't have him just be like this villain. He needs to be at least an anti-hero, but...
the justification for impaling all those people, it was just...
It's paper thin at best.
Yeah.
But
they should have gone with something like he impaled all of the people after he became a vampire. That makes a lot more sense.
It does, but then you have to think, like, why did he become a vampire in the first place?
Well, that's easy.
Well,
There's a lot of reasons that he could...
Yeah. Well, like, I'm trying to think on the level of the writers of this movie.
Shit, do what they did in Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Well, in that case, just make Bram Stoker's Dracula again. Yeah. Just don't keep Francis Ford Coppola and his jack-making ass out of it.
Hey, if you can write something else that is... It doesn't have to be, like, better, but if you can write something else that says that's interesting the way they went with it, then go for it. But if you're going to do it the way they did in this movie, then it wasn't worth it. They might as well just stuck to the same tale. They didn't do anything better.
And this notion of a ticking clock also comes with it a really contrived scene where where Dracula's still trying to protect his family, and then spoilers, his wife dies in the stupidest way possible.
Oh God! Now I have to go on about that.
It's like during.
Do you know about the River of the Princess? If you do, then this was complete bullshit. There are two different ways they could have gone with it, and they chose neither. They chose one that was not new and interesting, but just boring. In Bram Stoker's Dracula, she received a note from the Turks saying that her husband was slain in battle, and she, all distraught and whatnot, throws herself from the castle, just too late for Dracula to arrive, and so he denies God and drinks, freaking puts a sword in the cross and drinks the blood from it. It was awesome. Another way to do it is that she was so distraught over him impaling everybody that she killed herself because she couldn't stand the monster he had become. That's another way they could have done it, but they didn't. So they just decided they just had her get attacked by one of the Turkish leaders,
like some
henchmen. They come up, they bamf up to the castle, and they push her off basically, and he flies down. Dracula tries to catch her in time. All Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy like and doesn't get her in time.
But like she's falling like 1,000 feet.
Yeah.
Down a sheer
and
rock
she's
cliff.
still.
And
Yeah.
she's still alive as he's cradling her in her arms. She's dying, but she's fine. She survived impact, and she's not like a bunch of hamburger on the meat. Of course, no, she's not a drop of blood on her. She is no. There's one drop of blood on her neck. Just
a beauty mark.
Just a beauty mark of a little blood droplet on her neck, and that's just enough for her. And her just like, please take my blood so that way you can be vampire forever and get revenge. Revenge! Blah. And, he beats on her blood, and now he's real Dracula. Now I am actual Dracula.
Yeah.
And
now he's Dracula, son of the devil, as he says himself.
As he goes to great lengths to clarify for everyone involved.
Yes.
But this kind of not quite coincides with the second stupid thing they did, but for no reason whatsoever. Like the Turks fight Dracula the first time around, and he kicks all their asses. 1,000 against 1, Dracula wins, and so his men are scared. The Turks are scared. So what does the Sultan do? It's like we're gonna march on Transylvania with blindfolds.
This was the kind of stupidity that we. Inside and somewhere, we're hoping that they would do more of.
Yeah.
And for this scene, we got it. It was really all of the wacky dumbness was just put into that one scene because that's where the bat fist was. That's where the blindfolding. God, that was dumb.
Yeah, it's like so his Sultan.
It's like, is he gonna give his soldiers like silver weapons and steaks and garlic? No, he's gonna blindfold them so that they won't be frightened by Dracula.
You see, my friends, my Turks, here, I have the ultimate way to protect ourselves.
That's right. There was
from Dracula.
There was a whole speech about it too.
Dracula, we will build ourselves a home, and then we will not welcome him in, and he will not be able to harm us. He will be helpless against our home, and his unwelcome sign.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lost Boys.
Oh, well, there's a lot of things where you're not welcome in, actually. That's a pretty popular thing. Bela Lugosi one did it. I'm pretty sure Buffy Universe did it. That one got kind of interesting. But, yeah. I mean, the fact that they had any lore about vampires in this movie was actually the 1400s.
Before I need to stop you right there for one moment because just the capper rather on the blindfold stupidity is the fact that it never comes up.
Yeah,
like they're just marching with blindfolds on. That's it.
Well, you expect there to be, you expect there to be some kind of event,
like some kind of
to explain the usefulness of these blindfolds. That
like any kind of significance.
Like because we're thinking, well, this is stupid, but they're gonna correct us. We'll see why this is a good idea, but it never does anything. They're just blindfolded. They're still frightened as shit because they're blindfolded going up against Dracula
for good reason
and his billions of bats. Just now they're arrows with their their fire arrows are completely going all over the place because they can't see anything. I think they're just firing into their own armies really because you see them going all over the place. It's so dumb. So dumb.
But I'm sorry I stopped you, but continue your thought.
No, I don't even remember. Where was I?
Truth be known, neither. I don't know either. But this movie is so inconsequential that we don't even know anyone's name. I mean, we know Dracula's.
I know that Dracula, the guy who played Dracula, was in Lord of the Rings. He was in The Hobbit.
Well, besides the fact that the actors, I mean the characters.
Yeah, well, I know Mina.
As
you find out she is, because they do that.
Yeah. They're Mina, but that's just because the lore, not because to this movie's credit. This was like I can't impart to you how fucking pointless this movie is when like nearly every character with every FaceTime, you don't know their names, you don't know their relationship with Dracula. All you know, there's just there.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, Dracula's friends. And, I don't know if they even had names in the credits. Did they have names? Because they could have just been Dracula's close friend 1, Dracula's close friend 2.
It might as well be. I mean, no one has any kind of personality.
Man, and how many times does Dracula's close friends get murdered trying to protect the princess when he can?
I don't know.
So many times.
It's just unreal. I literally cannot believe how utterly just it defies belief that you could write a movie that has so little there as far as character and story presence and as far as anything. And this is a vampire movie.
They made it so there could be a sequel. At the end, it goes forward to our time, where it would have been 1915, I think, in the actual book. But, all intents and purposes, it goes back to our time. It's going to be the classic Dracula novel, I suppose, except that Charles Dance is going to be his sire. So it's like...
And Charles Dance is basically going to be the villain.
It's kind of weird having a Dracula story where he's not the first vampire or the most, the most powerful vampire. Or
but
whatever.
He has to be the hero because, Dracula.
Yeah, and I guess, in order to have a villain for Dracula to, in order to have an antagonist, it has to be someone stronger than Dracula, I guess. It can't be Van Helsing, apparently.
This was bad in a way I was hoping it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
And we were discussing this movie over dinner, and we were kind of come to a weird kind of conclusion that it's setting itself up for a sequel, but we don't know if it'll happen because it needs to be successful. And considering the theater turnout we had, I don't think it will.
No, I don't think there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah, like, that hopeful sequel will happen, but I don't think it will. And I asked him, do you think you want to see a sequel?
No, I really don't. I'd rather that this just get forgotten quickly enough so that they can hopefully make a better Dracula movie closer in the future than it would be if they kept on with this. I'm not hopeful for any future Dracula movies, though. I'd rather it just not happen.
So that, yeah.
I mean...
Like, on one hand, I would be interested to see a Dracula movie in the modern times. Just because...
Well, they did Dracula 2000.
Well, one that's not Dracula fucking 2000.
And the ones that came after, which are... Have you even seen those?
No, and I'll thank you to keep them out of my viewing.
Yeah, because if you think Dracula 2000 had problems...
I was happy not knowing that movie had sequels. Thank you for ruining my life, Gabe.
Yeah, I think it had 2 sequels, actually. Yeah, 2.
But, it's not like they can't make a good film series out of this idea. Like a Dracula in the modern times that are...
This feels like it was meant to be a show. To me.
I think, it does have some CW elements in that regard.
They've been doing all that stuff, Sleepy Hollow, Supernatural. We got lots of those shows going on right now. I could totally see there being, Dracula Untold, the TV series.
Dracula, sit down, shut up, let's just get it on with.
Even the title, Untold, it feels like a show. It feels that way.
Yeah, I could definitely jive with that, at least with that idea.
You have intent. Mina in the show, Dracula's interactions with Mina, and she doesn't know who he is, that he's a vampire, or that she's, a descendant or anything like that. It all gets revealed over the series. It's just very...
Mm-hmm. I think we need to talk about the climax, too, the ending. Because I honestly thought that was going to be the end of the film when, they died. Like, when his wife died, his son's being taken away by the Sultan, and I was thinking, I know that they were trying to sequel bait. I know they're going to sequel bait. So maybe, he's transformed into Dracula, and then, it's going to, end with him just making crazy eyes at the Sultan.
Except you realize how short this movie's been.
Yeah. It's this can't be the end. Yeah. It just feels like...
It feels like an ending, but we also know that it's too early.
Mm-hmm.
So...
It's messy business either way. But... And this is an important thing. I remember what point you were trying to make up before I interrupted you. It's this idea that apparently the vampire lore is so well known throughout this region, despite no one knowing that there's a fucking vampire in Transylvania.
Yeah.
That even the Turks know what to do to stop a vampire and how to recognize a vampire.
It was ridiculous. As soon as Dracula goes to the cave for the first time, and that's how it works. He goes to the cave at the very beginning of the movie with his more of his close friends that get murdered. God, he's got a lot of those, huh?
Yeah.
God, even Dark Prince had one close friend, and that guy stuck around the whole time. But yeah, so he goes to the cave at the beginning of the movie. They discover the Charles Dance vampire, and he makes it out, I guess, alone. And he gets back to the castle, and his priests or whatever show him a book, an occult book on vampires, I guess, or at least it was like a book of shadows, and they flip to the vampire under V page. I don't know.
Like, your Christian demons by alphabetical order encyclopedia. The scene was ostensibly to let him know that he's going to. You need to go to see him again if you want to become a vampire.
He's like, don't tell anybody about this. I may or may not commit sacrilege later on.
I may or may not become a vampire later.
I may or may not become a vampire.
Promise not to tell anyone.
It's good to have my options. Thanks. So, the lights may or may not go off. But yeah. So,
from there until this wild guess during the first reveal after they escaped the castle and are moved to a monastery, that same priest that told them about Dracula sees that he's trying to avoid the light and immediately knows he's a vampire. Oh man, that guy's just avoids stepping into the sunlight. Vampire!
Keeping in mind that Van Helsing's not in this movie.
No.
Nor are any of his underlings or...
Oddly enough, Renfield's in this movie.
Yes, I told Ben before the movie that there will be a Renfield.
And I said, that makes no sense because this is not set in the 19th century. And
I said, well, I certainly goddamn hope there will be. For comedic relief, because that'll be stupid. And stupid is what I thought I was going here for. I was wrong.
Yeah, and the Renfield we got is basically Jack Sparrow if he were a hippie.
Yeah. And boy, is he very almost useless, save for the end.
Yeah, he was there for a scene, just to say "Hi, I'm Renfield, bye," and then shows up one last time, after the final battle in which he fights the Sultan on a bed of silver coins that the Sultan just happens to know that vampires are weak against silver, kills him. Then realizes, hey, all my former countrymen that I turned into vampires to help me kill all these Turks, they're starting to
act like they're vampires.
Yeah, they're eyeballing my son. So he stakes one, then he opens the clouds up to reveal.
He kills the last of his close friends
himself.
At least, actually, I think he has a lot more close friends because
not after this movie.
Out of the woodworks.
Not after this.
Not after this movie, huh? Yeah, because they're all the vampires and. Yeah, that's true. Oh, yeah. He can sire other vampires.
Yeah. So he sires a bunch of vampires by just feeding him his blood, like his nearly dead countrymen. Yeah. They slaughter the Turks. They start
as if he couldn't do it alone.
No,
because in the beginning of the movie, he takes out an entire army right after becoming a vampire.
He takes out
shit. He could almost take out an entire army before he was a vampire.
Yeah.
He said, "I am worth far more than 1,000 boys." He says that at the beginning. God, that sounds kind of different.
Yeah,
it's the way I say it now, but
yeah,
he's like, "I'm worth far more than 1,000 boys. You want me, not them."
Me. Anyway. But 1,000, he could have taken on 1,000 soldiers. He could have taken on this army.
No, honestly, he could have won this war without becoming a vampire. He was that good.
And the fact that he's a hero in a Hollywood movie.
Oh yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. So, realizing what he's done, he opens the clouds, sunlight pours on everyone, kills everyone, and leaves him a husk. But Renfield comes out of nowhere to basically feed him some blood. Oh, I'm alive. Oh, what is this? 2010 and. Oh, look, there's the love of my life, my wife, reincarnated. Hi, you want to fuck?
Yeah, he comes on all creeper style.
I know it is just ah.
He doesn't have the charisma Gary Oldman did.
No, but then again, not a lot of men do.
No.
But that's really like warts and all. That's the movie. Like I don't think we missed anything from the plot. You could write the entirety of the plot on like a bar napkin.
Yeah.
And there's like it's so bereft of ideas.
Well, and Charles Dance is there
for a scene.
Let the games begin, he says, and cut to credits.
Yeah, for a scene, and then he reappears again in human form to like, I guess I'm in this movie franchise now. So, movie ends, and we're just left going, this needed to be so much worse than it is.
Yeah.
As it is, it's just so... I think it's even worse than being dull. This is a movie that has no reason to exist.
Yes. That's what it is. It's unnecessary.
I literally cannot think of a reason why anyone would enjoy this. I can even think of reasons why people would like Neighbors. Because there are some people with stupid senses of humor out there.
Yeah.
And I can see them enjoying Neighbors. But I can't imagine anyone enjoying this movie.
No.
It's like, it's not exciting. If this you're literally your first vampire movie, maybe you'll like it just because you don't know any better. I hate to come off as patronizing, but there is so little good in this film that it's anti-good.
There wasn't even that much that really made him a vampire. Sunlight was so inconsequential in this movie.
Yeah, and Silver burning him wasn't all that.
I mean, none of his weaknesses were really weaknesses.
They're
just minor inconveniences. So, when you see a vampire film, you need to really feel that light is a really, really big problem for a vampire.
Light is dangerous. Silver is dangerous.
These are huge deals to a vampire. And the way they did this was completely... I mean, this was a hero who didn't have enough weaknesses.
And I just realized something. For some reason or another, the Turks knew, or at least the Sultan of the Turks knew, that to kill a vampire you have to stick it through the heart.
Yeah.
That much wasn't even explained to...
yeah, he didn't even... Dracula didn't even fucking know that. Apparently, so...
It's like, God, this is really, really a bad movie, but not...
Yeah.
But I keep coming back to it, but it's bad in the worst way possible. It's bad because it's uninteresting. And it's bad because it's pointless. So, on that reason alone, maybe this will... when I came out of the theater, I thought, well, it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, it was a movie. But the more I think about it, the more it kind of pisses me off.
See, it was stupid. The ending, the Silver was apparently keeping him from using his powers. Otherwise, he would have used his powers and just gutted the guy with bats.
Of course.
He would have just, imploded. We would have shot bats into his orifices and exploded at him. If this was a rated R movie. But, but he can't use any of his powers because of the Silver. But how does he kill him? When he's lying on a bed of silver and he's about to be, KO'd. Turns into a bunch of bats and kills him.
So why couldn't you do that sooner?
Yeah.
Because he had to try really, really, really hard. Try. It's sort of like that. It's like the fucking ending to Superman Returns. It's like when he's lifting that planet of kryptonite.
I couldn't finish that movie, so I don't know.
It's like, if kryptonite harms Superman, why is he able to push the huge mound of kryptonite back into outer space?
Yeah.
Well, Superman was trying really, really hard.
Yes, he had the power of trying really hard.
It's like, why didn't he try really, really hard sooner?
Yeah.
That's really, really fucking sloppy writing on that. But like I said, this is a bad movie, and this will probably wind up on my worst of list.
Yeah, Dracula Untold, because no one's gonna remember it was told, so it's untold. In the end. So I guess it's aptly named.
Dracula, please don't tell us this goddamn story again.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm sad. I thought you were going to be the sad one out of this, but no, that's me.
Really?
Yeah, I am sad because I was
Because you didn't get to see me in pain.
no, because this wasn't a horribly entertaining movie.
I can't be sad. First, I just can't be sad because there's just it's so non-existent. This movie, it's so ethereal.
It's
in all the wrong ways.
The movie form of vapor.
Yeah.
So, I guess that's a pretty good way to end this vlog on. This movie turned into mist.
It's turned into mist form. This movie has mist form.
It just dissipates from me. This movie is literally dissipated from my mind. Till next time.